Hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy. Uh, I'm welcoming you today to another session of Star Trek Adventures Aegis. Today we are in Escalation Part 2. We will pick up with a supplemental log, so please take it away.
Captain Supplemental. Mako Colonel Lillian Sharpe, August 2nd, 2154. When it rains, it pours. After fleeing from the sudden appearance of a Tellarite flotilla, the Aegis has received word from Starfleet that a set of terrorist bombings have occurred at the embassy of Vulcan and the shipyards over Alpha Centauri. In addition, it seems 5 other Tellarite naval formations have positioned themselves in range to threaten every critical system to start Starfleet's existence with no warning or provocation. With having to settle 2 critical crises at the same time, Alma Force has assigned us with half of it. Assess this position of Tellarite force, discern objectives or intent if possible, but avoid provoking hostilities. However, if it comes down to it, the Aegis is authorized to defend themselves with all force necessary. With orders given, I've tasked the crew to various tasks to keep them busy and prepared for the proverbial clock drawing closer to midnight. Security is tasked to create a 4th Delta shift and begin frequent drills to keep the crew ready. Lieutenant Shira was also tasked to send messages to her contacts with the Andorian Imperial Guard or other contacts to see if they can get information. Engineering was tasked to follow on the idea of creating possible decoy drones in any possible modification to the warp engines that wouldn't sacrifice our mobility to install. Medical was tasked to expand medical facilities, whether that included dedicating new rooms or temporarily reassigning some of the science officers into temporary nurses. What's left of the science department was tasked to scan and scour the local regions for strategic and navigational advantages. Our eccentric guide Sorrel was given the request to look to any contacts he had with the Talar government or any other contacts that may be helpful calming things down. It has been several hours since the orders have been given, still monitoring the nearest Tellarite fleet formation in a parallel course. Joint Command has given no updates for any of these situations, though I hope that contact with intelligence or various contacts from my crew could give me something to even start with.
By this time, the hours have elapsed and it is into the early hours of that next day. As I recall from last time, uh, there were at least 3 of you who were reaching out to other contacts. I think for one, we should allow for some interspersing of scenes between all of those, but I would be interested in at least getting an order set for how we do those other scenes. I'll just to start with here. Uh, at least I would like Craig and Panda. I'd like both of you to just give me a single D20 roll here. Felix, you can also roll here for Saral.
Ooh, close.
Oh, that's actually pretty close.
Yep. Yeah.
But we have a winner.
Yep.
God damn it!
Well, you may always elect to pass if you prefer.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
And
Okay.
defy the will of the dice?
Yes, I mean, I have to blow up the ship earlier than expected, but what can you do?
uh, anyway, so Saral, I'd imagine. Let's see. At this point, it is relative. So it is an early point in the ship's hours, and unless you would like to make this, I will give you a choice here. You may start from either the early hours where the game and log is picking up essentially, or if you would like, we could start from an earlier point in the timeline, perhaps late that day, where you might have started reaching out to your contacts and performing other tasks. What would you prefer time-wise, first off?
Oof. I don't know. I expect that the contacts will take some time to get back. So I'm happy to just do what I usually do and sleep as little as Vulcan possible, and just tinker away, probably in the shuttle while I wait for some answers.
That sounds fair.
Uh,
At
some
a
ungodly hours.
Yes, you wake up at an extremely early time. We'll absent any specifics we want to put to it, we will just call it 0 dark 30 or dark o'clock. It's all dark out in space, but so far as the ship is concerned, the lights are very low. Um,
Fair.
so when you're waking up, would you prefer to take this moment for a scene on your own, or would you want any players or NPCs to be involved?
I think he's by himself.
Okay.
I know we want to do some sensor operations at some point. I don't know if they've already happened or if they got like moved in the timeline by plot.
Hmm.
Um,
If they
but that's a different thing altogether. So at this time, it's like literally trying to figure out what the overall situation is, and Soral probably also enjoys staying out of everyone's way because this is like, I know it's not the biggest crew, but it's like a semi-military vessel that is just in a potential pre-war situation. So it's like you poke the anthill. And the doctor is requisition people for nursery staff, nurse staff, and requisition space and stuff. So he's just retreated in his sanctuary and just like enjoys a bit of silence.
Fair enough. So, from the rising eventually from the comfort of whatever bunk setup you have in the shuttle, you are able to freely move about your craft. With most systems powered down, I'm sure that to the extent any of the usual hums and other sort of idiosyncratic sounds that this craft has made over the years, most of them are probably down. You don't really have reason to keep the warp reactor powered or anything of the sort. But I imagine that the fusion drives, at least the internal reactor power plant, though not the engines, are left online so that you can continue your work.
Yeah, I think like any power usage is minimal
Yeah,
in any case.
yeah.
So
Just as a
it's just
go ahead,
go
please.
ahead.
I was just going to say, just for the player group, or rather for the audience at home. Obviously, Mr. Sorrel came in some time ago with a Vulcan shuttle, but give us a little description of the interior, or how you think that Sorrel would keep
Uh,
this.
well, I think the Vulcan shuttles are a bit on the larger side. At least this one is, at least in my mind.
Yep.
But still, it's a shuttle, so there's very very limited space, which isn't entirely helped by the fact that everywhere there is shelves or open storage space where just a random assortment of things seem to be stashed. Everything looks in a constant state of reorganization. There's the feeling that there is some kind of system behind it, but that system has been abandoned 3 tries before. I'm in favor of a new one. Technical gizmos of all kinds, crystals, bottles with liquid from the oil variant to the alcohol variant, and drinkable or non-drinkable variants. And just the mobile Doc Brown laboratory, kinda. It's kind
Some,
of the vibe I was going for.
yeah, something
And
that operates on an uncertain, tortured logic all of its own. I take it.
yeah, I mean that's what he said in the beginning. He's kind of where his interests take him. So there's a host of attempted scientific or engineering pathways, discoveries, ideas that were pursued and then abandoned for various reasons. Either they didn't work, he couldn't get them to work. Several items have been shelved because some materials that he requires are either terribly hard to come by, terrifyingly illegal, or just do not exist yet. And others have just been discarded because it turns out it wasn't a promising route of research. And others are just very much being worked on, and there's like on this the workbench space is like an assortment of half-assembled things that all have been like shoved to the side, and in the central table where he's working on is one of the tricorders from the Aegis that he got as his like scientific equipment that is like mostly taken apart, and he's in the process of wiring like a core of clearly Vulcan origin into the system, which proves to be difficult because energy system compatibility, etc., etc.
Indeed. Let's put Saral to work on this, and I will ask. Perhaps to start off, if you would like if you'd like a roll to kind of just examine the problem going into this for a moment, either a reason or insight plus engineering roll, I think would be the appropriate one.
I would go for reason.
Yep.
Can I apply computer? So that's more like computer operating.
I think that in this
Maybe.
case, the computer on the shuttlecraft is attempting to help you with this. And for this, I'm just going to roll a single d20 to help you out.
What's the difficulty?
The difficulty on this will be 2.
Let's give it a shot. Nah. But that looks like a success.
The
Maybe.
shuttlecraft did indeed assist you here with the for whatever reason the sheet itself hasn't been working just yet, so I'm just going off with what stats I have here, and this does count for a success. So, Saral, as you look through the analysis that you have on the shuttle displays, you find that there is indeed a power compatibility issue. In particular, the data core that you are looking to supply would require additional power generally. And there are supplemental units that would allow that. There's a supplemental power unit, I would imagine, with the data core that you were looking to fix in so that you could augment this tricorder. However, the problem is that it seems as though essentially the Earth scanner is not accepting the power input. There's some sort of equipment essentially that there isn't a universal plug-in of sorts, I guess would be one way to frame this. Some sort of
goddamn Terran technology and their weird charging plugs.
Yeah, they haven't moved up to USB-C yet. But yes.
It's just a fad. It's just a fad. It's gonna pass. No, we shouldn't switch over. Micro USBs is the way to go.
Wars have been fought over less.
Yes, the great USB plug Accord of Babel is still some 10 to 15 years off. The greatest achievement of the Federation's early years.
Yes, the true reason why Starfleet was established.
It is such a thing that you could probably, without necessarily engaging in the jury rigging talent, you could lowercase jury rig an item together that would reconfigure the power flow in such a manner that the scanner accepts it and allows for compatibility between the two with full functionality.
Huh?
So
That's what I'm gonna try.
that being the case, I think that this could be a little bit tricky here. So I'm going to. This will be a slightly more difficult task, partly because you are working with Earth technology that, while you have a better understanding of, you're still getting a sense of the thing. So let's call this control plus engineering with a difficulty of 3. I will say there is a momentum pool available to you.
I was about to ask if I can steal one of the momentums.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm fine with it.
How much do we have?
There's there's still 4 in the pool, which I've elected not to take away. I admit I am bad at remembering about removing that between scenes, but
That's fine.
yeah, works for you guys.
It does work for us. And so continue
I'm
on.
not
Sir. Continue on.
Well, that is 2 successes, which is short of the 3 that you require in order to complete the process.
Doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's surely not the result of me staying awake for 48 hours.
certainly not. Certainly not. I will say, as you look over in frustration, or rather, as your frustration with this builds, the computer on your shuttle actually begins to show you an alternate display. You see the scanner schematic on your screen, but an alternate design seems to be on the table, or alternate from the workaround that you were attempting there.
Okay.
Attempt that roll again, this time with a difficulty of 2.
Interesting.
I assume I know the source of that design.
Yes.
Far too many leaps of logic.
All right, that is the 2 successes that you need. Yeah, with further time being spent on this, it seems as though the scanner is, after a few test runs, the scanner is starting to accept power from the modified version of the power setup here. It seems as though, yes, indeed, this is going to work here. So with that, you find that the scanner now has considerably more data storage, and I dare say a bit more processing power at this point.
What's the plan?
Mhm.
Maybe someday we will have the technology to miniaturize them.
Yes, yes. As the information is, rather, as you begin small test runs with this, another console on your shuttle goes off.
I mean, it's my shuttle, so I have to ask. It doesn't explode, right?
It does not explode.
Good, good.
This is a communications panel.
It's a constant worry.
It helps that you don't have the warp engines powered up right now.
Yeah, but Explodium is fickle. Yes, communications. So they don't really have like rolling chairs in Star Trek, do they? Gliding chairs, maybe. I have a gliding chair because that's the coolest part of having like everything in reach, more or less.
Yep.
So I just slide over to the communications console.
Yeah, Saral rocks some custom shit. Let's just say that.
It's too custom, actually.
You still nearly fall over as the anti-grav has a weird adjustment to some bobble on the ground.
It stops working halfway through.
Yeah.
Oh. Momentarily propelled out of your seat before you come back down.
It's like when you go on an office chair from like a flat surface on carpet, it just like stops. Yeah. So.
From what you are seeing here, there is a text-only reply from your Tellarite contact. As soon as my Roll20 cooperates, it will make its way to you. But
why is the program taking so long to respond? Clicked it 15 times already.
Well, I will at least give you. Tell you what. Since this attachment seems to be the major problem here, I'm just going to send some of this through the Roll20 chat to you, Saral, just to give you the gist of it. I can tell you that tonally, the text of the message from your contact is going to, well, it's going to pose its usual irritable or mildly irritable affectation. You wouldn't expect anything less of the Tellarite scientist. But past that point and past some of the affectations, you find that as part of the initial answer, he's not seeing the things in the news that that would lead you to believe any any sort of conflict is imminent.
There's something in Roll20.
Yes, I think that it's starting to things are working now, at least on the chat, and I'm sorry about the issue with the handout there.
No problem. And I assume Tellarite society, like from what I know, is pretty straightforward internally with what is happening.
Yes, the Tellarites prize, for the most part, I would say that they are very well. They're very open about a great many things. A part of the background of the species, as you understand it, is that at a certain point there were major wars literally fought over the discourse. That they were called the voice wars at a proper point, and so Tellarites. It's not that Tellarites certainly cannot lie or wouldn't lie under many circumstances.
Is that all of the message? Because it seems like there should be more.
There, I actually see what's going on here.
I have to say I rarely use the Roll20 chat. It's the one thing I don't use in Roll20. I mean, yes. Is there any comments why there even was such a thing to keep everyone in delicious suspense?
Well, I mean, it has, as you well know, it has a great many uses, and that particular world it had some fairly major refineries that were used for all manner of functions. That being said, you don't get much more specificity.
That's fair.
Yeah, there isn't much more specificity on the specific level of anything with this. This is where he works, so he understands. Your Tellarite contact is particularly in the loop, and the message very much makes it sound as though he is troubled in part because his hide is very much on the line in terms of trying to help figure this out.
I mean, if I hear anything, I will pass it along, but it's generally varying information.
Yep. And it may be something you decide to share, but for now, most of the crew is still probably at rest.
I mean, I would probably wait if there's any more feedback from other contacts, but it's very good to know that it doesn't seem like a general what's the word? Saber rustling of the Tellarites because they want to go to war. They're just worried with what's happening internally and externally.
Yeah, it is.
I assume
it's entirely possible that this is as a very science-oriented contact that you had. It is very much possible that they aren't entirely. It's just very much possible that they aren't. The Tellarite government may not be advertising this as much. Let's just say.
no,
So
it's understandable. So everyone is pretty much concerned about their own things in this time. No, I would probably wait until it's like normal morning hours. If I hear anything more from any contacts before I go speak to the captain.
All right. Well,
for a general news update.
on a
If there's anything. If there isn't, then there isn't. No.
so let's go on ahead from there. The one other person who might be having an early morning, or well, I think it might be fair to say, Shira, do you think that you would be awake at this time, or would you have been trying to get some rest, particularly with the request of a new shift rotation being set up?
I think I'd probably be trying to get some rest. Sleeping in my nice, cool room.
Okay. Well, as the as the stars streak by, it's in relative low light, and the room is a nice, cool, and comfortable temperature. There's a chime at the at your table, essentially.
I will get up, wearing my Imperial Guard issued pajamas or something, and go to the table.
How do Imperial Guard pajamas look like?
I have to.
Chris.
Are they blue? And do the slippers have little antennae on them? You should have like fuzzy slippers with antennae on them.
Tribbles with antenna. It's basically the slippers.
Hey, it's a leftover use for the treble once you've eaten it.
Ow.
The pajamas are black with
Yes.
a silver trim.
Yes. As tasteful and non Rick Berman influenced a pajama as we can get here.
There may or may not be slippers with antenna.
Maybe. So Shira takes her, gets up from her bed through the with the black and silver trim pajamas and the Andorian bunny slippers, and you make it to the console. You hear a slightly groggy voice at the console. Lieutenant.
Yes?
I'm sorry to disturb you at this hour. I've been up, well, I got into my shift a bit early. Couldn't quite sleep. So I've gone ahead and relieved the duty shift a little ahead of schedule. There is a secured channel here. I believe the ident is an Andorian channel, but I don't. Well, I'm not recognizing anything in terms of the. Oh, how to put this? I'm sorry. My coffee is not yet taking effect, Lieutenant.
Are they waiting for me to? Are they just waiting for you to transfer the call?
In essence, but I don't know who it is the key issue.
That's fine. Just send it over. I'm sure it's important.
Very well. Would you prefer I set to audio only, or would you like a visual, sir?
Visual would be nice.
Very well, sir. Stand by. Transmitting now. And it takes a few minutes. The first screen to come up at this point is not actually immediately the screen for is not immediately the visual of the person that is trying to reach you, but it is a screen that is keyed to an Andorian intelligence symbol. There is a request here for an entry.
Okay, I'll type in my security code.
Okay. With that, the system boots up, and you can tell that they are essentially running secondary checks in order to make sure that the channel is all properly secured. A few more moments pass, and with a slight bit of static, possibly indicating just relative interference, you may be just a little outside of where Andorian subspace relays are quite comfortable broadcasting. You see an older Andorian man, very closely cropped hair, with nonetheless slightly wizened features, and the look of one very deeply stern, and with the garb of what you would clearly discern as an Andorian general.
I'll straighten up to attention.
As you were, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir.
Your query has been received. What is your situation, Lieutenant?
Currently, there are a couple of dozen Tellarite ships located around the border of United Earth space. That's far too many for the humans to handle. We ourselves are currently tracking a small squadron of Tellarites running on a parallel course. We have no idea what they're up to. So far, the humans haven't been able to make any diplomatic headway with them. They haven't attacked, but their posture's hardly friendly. And we both know the Tellarites aren't exactly always trustworthy.
They are certainly no strangers to the occasional provocation, but this is a deeply unusual situation.
Yes, I mean, we've had a couple of contacts with Tellarites recently, but nothing which I'd consider provoking this level of response.
It is unusual. As near as we can tell, he pauses for a moment. Lieutenant, in your time there, I would ask you a more comprehensive question. Are there any unusual observations you have noticed, not only in the movement of Tellarite fleets, but of other local powers?
Do I remember any unusual things? Because there's that fleet of I forget the name ships who showed up at Terra Nova hunting for the
The Tandarans were that particular one, and yeah, that's
yes,
definitely the one major thing that came to mind.
Tandarans. You had, of course, the Tellarites moving to Alpha Centauri because the governor decided to turn coat.
And what of the more obvious concern?
More obvious concern being the Vulcans, sir?
Yes, yes, Lieutenant. The largest, by far, concern of our defense posture.
Of course, sir. They have not really been an issue from where I've been standing. They've actually backed the Alpha Centauri independence movement, which is a little strange considering it was an internal human matter. Although, as
Typical.
much as yeah, I know, they're very two-faced about a lot of these things.
Yes, typical Vulcans. Refuse to intervene with the supposed ally there's no, when there's a clear crisis motivated by an external actor, and when no actor is present, claim intervention on the basis of some need for peacekeeping or stabilization.
It's very political of them, sir.
We've seen it all before.
Yes.
Lieutenant, I will provide you what information I can discern on this matter, but I am going to ask that you place a formal request in with your commanding officer. If there is any information with regard to any recent Vulcan ship movements, we would appreciate it. Or, frankly, if you are able to review any intelligence matters, then the Guard could very much use this right now.
Do I remember anything about the Vulcans off the top of my head that I may have been reading in like various security reports that I've been allowed to read from Starfleet.
So the primary report that might have come up lately was just that the current Vulcan posture um, is rather concentrated around Alpha Centauri, or
Hmm.
rather, it's more an assessment of what that posture looks like. Uh, which is to say that they have a decent line of cruisers and smaller vessels in a position to patrol Alpha Centauri space, basically preventing Earth from taking any action against them.
Yeah.
Uh, the Otherwise, you know, just generally that Earth is aware of some Vulcan deployments in the area. In particular, they know of ships that are in Tau Ceti to enforce a sort of naval quarantine. They restrict traffic between the colony that the humans have in Tau Ceti and the Capharian homeworld. Those are the insectoid sapients that you met
All
back
right. Yeah.
at
The,
Zoran
the
Station.
yeah, that station. Oh, they've been restricting movement in the Tau Ceti system between the Capharians and the human colony there. But their main focus has mostly been around Alpha Centauri. Which reminds me, it's not not really a Vulcan movement thing. Just that there were a couple of bombings, just in the past couple of days. One at the Alpha Centauri dockyards, and another at the United Earth Embassy on Vulcan itself.
The Earth Embassy on Vulcan and the Alpha Centauri shipyards, which
Yes,
is
sir.
under Vulcan protection. He furrows his brow, um, pondering over what you have said. Targets certainly of considerable strategic and most especially diplomatic value. Any assessments at this time?
No, the human authorities are still looking at casualty figures and haven't started looking into who's responsible. But was would Sheeran know that the Enterprise is dealing with a lot of that stuff on the Vulcan Embassy thing?
Uh, Word might have made its way to you, or it depends, Captain, if the captain sent along a last minute notification on the matter.
Yeah, I would have notified them of our new orders and what's going on.
Yes. So the Starfleet, just to show how serious they're taking it, they've sent the Enterprise uh, to Vulcan.
Well, if Shran's assessment of their captain is anything near what we would expect, then there's hope for them yet, I suppose.
I'm sure the matter will be dealt with. I haven't had any word from the Alpha Centauri things, especially since United Earth don't really have much contact there. So I'll need to look how that one develops.
Well, if there are any updates or if there is any intelligence with regards to Vulcan fleet matters that you can gather, then I would ask that you submit a formal request to your captain and to Starfleet to dispatch that information.
Yes, I'll
If there
speak to my captain in the morning.
is two major targets that are at crucial points relating to Vulcan and Earth relations. If I didn't know better, I would wonder who wants to start a conflict between Vulcan and Earth.
Be a pretty one-sided conflict.
Indeed. They've been quiet. We will have to keep our eyes open and antennae up.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Good hunting out there, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir.
And the general will close the channel. So you are left alone in your relatively cool room to ponder everything that you have heard to this point. But there is a small file attachment for you as well, Shira.
Open that up.
That the top line from the updates is kind of becomes very clear as you start reviewing a few elements of what appears to be Andorian signal intelligence, uh, and gives you the sense. It gives you essentially a slightly better sense of what's been going on.
Good. I'll put that into, I guess, a human language and get that ready for a report to submit to Captain.
Yeah. So as this happens, let's advance a bit further into the day. Um, the Aegis is continuing on its parallel course with the Tellarite fleet, um, and as each of you begin assessing different bits of information, we'll give you the chance to link up with Starfleet intelligence there, Sharpe. But I figure this would also be a time to allow more people to kind of absorb what's going on or doing other things. Um, on that note, uh, I guess first for those players that haven't had a chance to act thus far, would anyone want just a scene of some sort, either at a station or perhaps like in an office in the officers' mess, chance to just have a moment to chat, but sort of calm in the storm moment, basically.
I'll probably grab breakfast with Eula if I can catch her, but remember that I am making sure those probes are ready. I'm making sure damage control stations throughout the ship are supplied, and that if, with the doctor's permission, I'll suggest that we move some emergency medical supplies to parts of the ship that have a tendency to get cut off during battle or could be. So just preparation and breakfast.
Okay. Anyone want to join Romanov for a breakfast scene?
Yeah, sure.
Just as a very brief question for on my part.
Yeah.
Do I still got migraines?
A little bit, but they've kind of dissipated over the evening. You might still have some trouble with them if you want to, if you need someone to make a house call or if you need to make a stop by.
Okay. That was it. Continue.
Okay. So let's see. Going back there, I believe Shira, you were interested in doing breakfast with Romanov there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? No?
She is trying to see if there's any news on the Alpha Centauri yard that got hit, because there was a chance that one, possibly maybe a couple of her relatives might have been up working the docks when that happened.
Yeah. Well,
I
chance to.
the captain might join in a moment,
Okay.
but I figured leave the lesser crew have their time.
Lesser
So-
crew?
Lesser crew, yeah, below captain, the ones that don't really matter,
Lesser
That
the ones that are replaceable. The captain's never replaceable.
says the second captain.
This is true. This is true.
Says the second engineer.
Oh my god.
Oh. Anyway. So yeah, we go from the exterior shot of the Aegis to the galley, where Romanov, you are alternating between status updates from the engineering departments that have been working out or have been continuing work through the night to make sure that the probes are rigged for that um, basically footprint magnification system, or the polite way to put this would be the fire at me switch. Um, when you find Lieutenant Shira coming in to the mess hall.
Shira will have a kind of data pad and is typing on it.
She'll grab some chow. What's on the line for today?
Good question. Mr.
Usually
Alonso,
not.
Mr. Alonso, what's being served for breakfast?
Motherfucker. Okay. Excuse my language.
This would be really important to Romanoff right now. Is she
It would be stuffed chalupas with made with just a more finery of various xenobiological flora and with a rather seasoned and certainly well cooked gyro lamb. Slam.
Wow, that's like Federation fusion cuisine. And she likes that stuff because she comes from a border world. So she'll, as she picks it up, she'll give him a thumbs up as she's in the line, because he's probably back in the kitchen. And yeah, definitely she'll eat some meat today. She tends to lean a little vegan, but, having been at a Vulcan private school. But she'll grab that and probably some coffee and have a seat with Eula.
Eula will add hot sauce to the food.
You son of a bitch.
She'll do so while looking in over at Adladso.
He just stares at you with a hard look and like just slowly grabs like the sharpest knife, starts like whetstoning it.
She'll take a nice big bite of the now spicier food.
The tortilla has the most perfect crunch. It is perfectly toasted or fire toasted. Just did that sort of crunch while still not entirely dry. It's pretty damn good.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's worth
Definitely.
noting. I will consider this an activation for Alonso. So Panda, at your leisure, you may give him a talent, value, or focus. I believe also you could assign a point in an attribute or discipline.
Nice. Cool.
But yes. So yeah, with chalupas at the ready and appropriately seasoned for you, Shira. The scene is yours.
How are you doing?
Okay. Got woken up in the middle of the night.
By what?
Information from Andoria. Got some intel to pass on to the captain. I'm trying to make sure it's all in English. How are you doing?
Oh, just hanging in there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Any news from Alpha Centauri?
Trying to find that out now. Anything on the ship's news system?
So it's probably only just now at a point where the Sol System News Network is picking things up and starting to produce some story content. They are broadcasting out, which at your present range, there should be some information that you could start getting, but there's still like not a lot that's actually current, not a lot that's coming out of Alpha Centauri itself. There's just a
It's
lot
probably
more.
the shit we know just now.
Yeah, they're definitely behind the clock on that. They're definitely behind in the news, and a lot more of it is just speculation. They might be like broadcasting a few clips of like different bits of stock footage from earlier in the year, so maybe the occasional picture of what the spaceport looked like beforehand, with just some traffic. There's probably some broadcasting of the occasional bit of protests that have occurred earlier on Alpha Centauri. Maybe even some analyst going off about the whole mess with Slocum earlier in the year. Some stock footage there, and beside him, the Tellarite Admiral. Uh, it has been an eventful year for for your old homeworld, Romanov.
So it's just barely. There's no exact news on what's going on out there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Well, you can't worry about something until you know. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. So.
Yeah. You did you know anyone who worked at their shipyards?
My whole family does.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
we tend to work it in shifts and from the planet side. So there's usually never any given day more than 2 of us in orbit, since we tended to modify a lot of ships on the ground. Has been our big business lately, making shuttles for boomers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, well, hoping they're all right then.
Me too.
Humans only have 2 parents, right?
Correct. Do Andorians have more than 2 parents? I've never asked
4.
that before.
4.
4?
4, yeah. Leads to large families.
No doubt.
Yeah, my one's relatively small. 4 parents, 4 kids. 1 Yuggy.
Wow, I didn't know that about Andorians. Cool. Does it take 4 to make 1 child, or is it just the marriage pattern?
Marriage pattern.
Ah. Cool.
Yeah, so I've got 2 dads, 2 mums.
Don't get away with much in an Andorian household, do you?
You'd think that, but on average, there's about 6 children to a family. So there's still lots of chaos. We were relatively small, only had 4 kids.
Yeah, 6 kids will change that scenario in a second.
Yeah. Never allow yourself to get outnumbered. I think that's what my parents thought.
Anything exciting in the report that you can discuss without jeopardizing it?
Well, you know.
Well, I guess, what does Andor think of what's going on?
The moment you ask that question, the door opens and the chief who is sitting to himself on a table working on food stands from his table. Captain on deck.
As you were, the captain just waves a hand as she steps in. Just here to get some coffee. Or tea, I guess. Just nods to people as she just walks in. And start making her rounds a little bit, checking on various NPC people before hovering towards the liquid dispenser.
Put your face under it and open your mouth.
Yeah. You haven't bothered the doctor with the idea of a caffeine hypo as of yet, so that's
Well, given these migraines, probably a bad idea. But once she gets some coffee, she'll make way over towards her officer chiefs. Romanov, Shira.
Hey, how's it going?
Please, pull up a seat.
Thank you. She'll sit herself down. The moment she sits down, Alazzo's practically already there, handing the most perfect photogenic chalupas you've ever seen, to the captain. And she just looks over and nods, "Thank you, Alonso." And Alonso
Alonso
says,
thought bubble. Alonso knows who butters his bread.
and Alonso just nods, "Of course, boss," and just makes his way back in the kitchen.
Yeah, these are great with hot sauce on them.
Oh man, freaking Alonso stops at the door, gives you like a dirty look, and just walks back in.
I could see him having picked up a glass and or well, for comedic effect it'd be picking up a glass and like squeezing it so hard that it bursts in his hand. But then I think that they would only have like metallic mugs, which still might
Yeah,
It would
burst in
just
his hand.
crush one slowly.
Yep.
yeah.
That's going to the
Yeah,
recycling.
yeah. So yeah, he picks up a metallic cup and you just creak as it just crumples. And the captain, who's just starting to eat her food, just says, "Alonso, you're paying for that one." And Alonso just like, "Yes, boss." "Sorry, boss." But yeah, the captain just starts eating a little bit.
How are you doing?
I'm managing through. I hope the rest of you are doing the same.
Yeah, breakfast is good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm just working on something for you, actually.
Oh,
She'll slide across the tablet. Got word back from Andorian intelligence. They too have picked up increased fleet activity from the Tellarites in the past 36 hours.
I'll sort of look at. She'll definitely look it over.
And there were, from what we can tell, this wasn't planned in advance. This is a reaction, perhaps even an emergency movement of forces.
Do they know why for?
No. The whys are at the minute eluding us.
I won't make you pull a roll here for certainly you, Shira, and you, Romanov, as Shira, your antennae feel a bit of a change in the air with some of the other officers and crew that are nearby. These are for any non-coms here, these are the senior-most people, or more like warrant officers. But there are some lower-ranking officers, and there's a noticeable sort of change in mood, a drop in volume a little bit over the conversation happening here. Romanov, you'd certainly notice any conversations that were going on elsewhere have drooped down a bit.
Full details are in the report.
Thank you. I'll look it over. She says that she gives another quick glance before signaling the screen off, just so people can't look over her shoulder.
Also have a direct request. I'll slide another pad over.
She'll just give it a quick glance and click that one off as well.
Yeah, that's just simply the the report. That's the request for the fleet stuff.
She'll just nod.
Vulcan fleet stuff. Yeah.
I will give her some consideration.
Yes, the familiar feeling of having multiple pads slid your way with single bits of information.
Yep. It's great. Memos.
Well,
now bulky.
One's intelligence report. One is a formal request for intelligence. So it needs 2 pads, obviously.
How are the two of you holding up, Romanov? You in particular.
I'm doing okay because at this point there's no information to know. If they hit the dockyards, usually there's not more than 2 of my families out in the docks at any given time. The rest tend to work the shop on planet side.
She'll nod. Does your family work on that shipyard in particular?
There's a couple of shipyards in orbit. We've worked them all at one point or another, but we tend to be concentrated in two of them.
GM, captain's prerogative here. Do I know which shipyards were hit?
That might have been there, but I don't remember if I have a comprehensive list of Alpha Centauri's shipyards handy. So,
Oh, sure. I'm just wondering if one of them was Romanov's.
The left one.
and it is a distinct possibility that may be something to follow up with later on.
With my wife. Okay.
Yeah.
She'll say, I do have a few connections. I can certainly look into it for you, Romanov. And certainly you'll be the first to know.
Okay. I appreciate that. I've been working on the decoy and making sure that we have engineering kits and medical kits spread out throughout the ship if we get into a tussle.
Good.
So, trying to prepare for that as best as possible.
Shira, how's the shorter but extra shift handling for the crew?
How's it handling for the crew, GM?
Let's give a roll from one of our. Let's see. I think that this, for starters, was going to just one of the generic security officer types. So let's take a look here. One moment.
And I'll be back just 1 second.
Yeah, sure thing.
4 shifts. They are the spirit of the devil.
Yes, so put them through, just to fluff this out, a fitness and medicine roll. Call this difficulty 2 to adjust. They're passing with flying colors. So as the conversation continues, yes, the three of you make your way through some exceptionally well cooked, if in Shira's case, insufficiently spicy chalupas.
Just needs that extra kick, you know.
Okay.
The crew seem to be handling it quite well, sir.
Good. I want to make sure everyone is very well rested. So, now that can be hard at this current time. But trying to slip in a few naps here and there.
Naps. Got it, sir.
Speaking of someone in need of a nap, the intercom for the mess hall engages. There's a brief chime, and from that the voice comes. Now hear this. Colonel Sharpe, please report to nearest comm system. Colonel Sharpe to the bridge, please.
She'll take one more final big bite if she can and try to just gulp it down before getting up. Excuse me. Good as always, Alazzo, she says as she goes over to the comm. What is it, Crichton?
Colonel, I have a line from Starfleet Intelligence. We're trying to connect a secure channel right now. Also, Commander Patel is wanted me to report to you the Tellarites are sustaining their current parallel course. We will be at this point. We are approximately 18 hours out from the Boremus Abyssal. At which point, if any attempt to intercept will become more difficult for them, as the subspace interference in the area would. Well, as I guess I don't know exactly what happened that one time, but when Mr. Patel thought of the idea of taking that place at high warp, he went a bit he got a bit of color drained from his face for some reason. I don't know why.
It's not a problem, Crichton. All right, I'll take it to my ready room.
Yes, sir. I'll have it ready for you.
She'll just give a nod to Shira and Romanov before leaving for the ready room.
Anything else that the two of you would like to do in this scene before we leave?
Yeah, she's going to look over at Shira. You always seem to have tension with Alonzo. There's I don't know. What's up with that, Shira?
He's very protective of his food. And he forgets it's not his food, it's our food.
And well, this is true, but
And
he's
that means if I want to, I just take apart the wrap and get the salt and pepper and grind some salt and pepper on to that. If I want to do that, you shouldn't be giving me a dirty look.
You just hear some chopping going on of some onions very aggressively.
Truth is, they're both winter types, and they just don't get along.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Well, I think he views himself as an artist, and he wants you to experience, that. But I do get your point that once the food has been transmitted to the person eating it, it is now theirs. This is true.
Yes. It's very good food. You should be proud of it.
Yes.
Just, a drop of hot sauce here and there. Wouldn't go amiss.
As Shira continues to meditate on how the customer is always right, and Alonso is having absolutely none of it. As that happens, Colonel, you do pass briefly through the bridge on your return trip, and you arrive in your quarters. I will say that as far as the bridge goes, the situation is unchanged from Crichton's update, so we just take it essentially from we'll take it from your arrival in the ready room here.
Yep, I make sure that my station is absolutely secure before receiving.
And before you, there. Sorry about that.
No worries.
The channel shifts, and when the screen appears, see the familiar face of one Athena Mitchell.
Her expression softens a little bit. Certainly more affectionate.
Oh, this was not the Mitchell you were expecting to hear back from, to be sure. Go for secure channel.
More go.
Good. We're channel secure on our end. We're reading it clearly. Aegis. Transmission is stable. How are you holding up out there?
Big step being a captain, especially under this situation.
Yeah, I admit I was kind of surprised you took the job, but I guess Edison was gave you that much of a pep talk.
A fair bit, though. We did both talk about working hard to getting ourselves up the ladder. This is certainly a side ladder, I guess. She gives an awkward expression, like that word didn't work very well, but certainly it's a way to get up there. And if anything, it seems like Starfleet needs it. Needs to be more cooperation between the two halves of Earth.
Indeed. Well, I was sorry to hear that the proposal was rejected. We did. For what it's worth, I do think the chief here did also review it at least, but. Oh,
And then what
similar.
did Dad say? What did Dad think?
Not I mean, he didn't see it as his place to do an end run around Mako, if that's what you're asking. I don't think that any part of Joint Command right now would be terribly happy with us trying to appropriate any ships other than what we can already work with, and right now that's extremely limited. They're certainly not going to put 150 people out on a long range. I think the way that He used the phrase he was using was oh dear, something more like a not fishing expedition. I don't remember. It's been quite busy around here.
How are you holding up?
Oh, you you know me. Caffeine and hatred gets one through the day.
Certainly can. She smiles.
Oh. Well, when I did hear about that, I was honestly a little concerned. I know that the 10 to 30 light year range is, well, that works pretty well for remote relationship, but I didn't realize that you had an ambition to go so long distance.
There's always one more room here. If you feel a little ambitious to go exploring with, I could always use an intelligence officer.
Oh,
One that doesn't feel like they're wanting to backstab me or exploit me or just leave at the moment opportunity. She smiles. Like chuckles a little bit, thinking about Sir All.
oh. Elsewhere on the ship, I could just see Saral sneezing really quick and then being indignant about it. Like, I've done nothing wrong.
Listen here, little shit. You're a young whippersnapper.
So, the corners of Athena's mouth crease ever so slightly towards grin. We are each where we need to be right now, Lillian. And for my part, that's trying to make sense of whatever's going on with these Tellarites.
Yeah. Which, by the way, what is going on with those Tellarites? I need something to start with. Anything.
She thinks for a moment and then says, he's... I'm sorry, I just thought of Alex for a moment because he might not be with anyone himself, but I think that in part he'd make a good dad because he's had the rather irritating, he's been rather irritatingly putting a joke question to me very repeatedly. I'll spare you that and just say that, frankly, we don't know. We can roughly place the movements of the Tellarite fleets, but we don't have terribly much in the way of capacity to break their coding systems right now. We're still trying to break that. We have a little bit of insight from what you did back aboard the Aegis, or rather, what was it? And Ensign Crichton seemed to have had some initial successes there, but well, they seem to have adjusted their coding in that time, so we're having more difficulty with it. Otherwise, we don't understand their intentions here. We don't know why they've moved. I can't even tell you how recently these moves have been prepared. For all we know, we're facing some sort of larger scale offensive action, or perhaps this is just brinksmanship.
From what I've gathered from my lieutenant, who apparently got a very personal call from Andorian intelligence, that this fleet movement is actually sudden even for Tellar itself. I'll send you that feed over.
Her hand immediately starts like moving to a console as she's beginning to. You know her at this point. She takes notes of important meetings. Oh, yes, Stu. I'd much rather have that as briefing material than just being able to say that a significant other sent that along. Though then again, I am just speaking with the captain of the Aegis.
Mm-hmm. She nods and smiles. And I'm just speaking to a representative of intelligence. You are home, right? She says a little more seriously. I know you can't say much, but you're safe, right?
I would, at this time, I could say that I'm in a fairly secure compartment, but you know better. Remaining details are classified.
Right. Just things are getting a lot more. She pauses, considers. They're getting a lot more tense out here in the dark, and it's almost as if there's just something in the air, as it were. So just be careful.
You do the same there, Colonel. Well, send me those files when you can. We'll
Well,
keep
I'm
real.
sending them right now. She says,
Okay, I'll keep updates to you as I have them, but right now, you are pretty much at our front line here.
"Great. All right. Oh, Andorian Intelligence also wants they're given a more personal request to someone of higher station in the same fashion that they typically do. This is more a request of any fleet movements that we're aware of regarding the Vulcans. I don't know if you want that request or if I should just
Draft that
put it
up,
aside.
send that in formally somewhere else through command. I'd rather not. I'd rather not piss off the section chief with something like that. Let's keep that through proper channels.
Oh, I've never seen him pissed. Which I guess is a good thing.
Well, that's his secret, Captain. He's always pissed.
Oh, great. Just a small grin. Be careful, okay? Her expression softens.
God damn it! I might need to face claim Mark Ruffalo as the as that character now. Do the same with that. If there's nothing,
she'll kiss her two finger or front two fingers and just tap against the screen or camera, whatever.
she'll do the same. You know, the effect will come across.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, the line will close.
She just decompresses a little bit, thinks for a moment. She'll definitely send the request officially through proper channels to Starfleet Command about fleet movements for Andora's request for fleet movements. And then
Well, unless
yeah,
there are
that's it.
other officers you want to go around and chat with, be they about migraines or other things that may have come up. I think the only other outstanding request you have is, or rather, outstanding message you had was something from, or trying to figure out whether Mr. Sorrell's learned anything new.
All right, yeah. It's thinking about intelligence officers. She'll just signal. Captain Tusserell,
Yes, Captain.
did you get anything?
I was on my way up, sir.
Great.
I'm
Come to my ready room.
almost there.
By almost there, you were in the turbo lift to the bridge when this happened. So it is. Yeah. It's just about that comedic, almost there, knock knock. Or door chime more appropriately.
Yeah. Come in.
Captain. So, I have, I suppose, good news and bad news. Any preference?
Start out any way you like.
Not answering the question, I see. So, I
don't care.
I assume good news. So the good news is there does not seem to be any hostility in the Tellarite movements. At least internally, there's no whispering about armed action by the military.
And how close is it? How close is that contact?
Part of
How closely
Tellarite
to the
society?
To the government proper.
Loosely attached.
She nods.
Tellarite society is quite open with its decisions and actions. It doesn't rule it out completely, but it seems unlikely that a large military action would be completely conducted in silence.
All right. And the bad news?
He takes a seat. It's like, it appears that a large freighter with a shipment of chemosite has gone missing.
Her eyes narrow.
And that
Excuse me?
feels like oddly
Where?
coincidentally in Tellarite space, I assume.
How much of it?
I don't know any more specifics. Chemosite is quite widely used.
Yes, though more recent demonstrations of such things and a significant quantity can certainly be a concern.
Well, certainly. That's why such things are regulated.
When has it disappeared?
Do I know any time specifics?
Within the past 2 days.
Yeah. Last couple of days. Seems to roughly coincide with Tellarite fleet movements, which would probably, if you had a more complete picture, indicate a search pattern. And 2 attacks on Terran holdings.
By the Teller holdings or Terran holdings?
Terran.
Of what? Of which? Where?
Well,
Well,
Alpha Centauri and the human embassy on
Oh.
Vulcan.
She nods.
It feels awfully convenient that a large shipment of chemosite goes missing and 2 terrorist attacks happen in pretty much the same intergalactic time span.
Certainly it is, and I'm not liking any of it. Do you have a in writing something I can give to command, joint command?
Do you have what?
Hmm?
Come again?
Do you have something that in more proper writing that I could send to joint command, or shall I write something up myself?
Nothing I would be comfortable in sharing. That's personal contacts.
All right. Is there anything else, Sir All?
No?
How are you with decrypting Tellarite communications, military code, and whatnot?
I haven't done that in quite a while. I can give it a shot.
Great. Join Crichton. I need to know what's going on in that flotilla down the ways, and try to give someone who might seem a bit more cooperative for a Tellarite over there.
Very well.
Thank you. She gestures the direction toward the door.
You just he leaves. We just see before the door closes against us. Crichton, the man I was looking for, just coming just out of the office.
Yep. You.
Um,
The last thing you probably hear with that is a, "Oh, hello, sir."
yeah, I'm going
You sure
to.
he's not a Benzide?
I'm going to type all that up very quickly and send it immediately as a priority to my handler, i.e., my wife.
Let's not deconstruct that further.
Oh my.
I mean, chemosite is used on many ships, even like Starfleet or whatever. Like
Starfleet
yeah.
doesn't actually use a lot of chemosite yet, but there's.
Well, they come around to it eventually.
Yeah.
For a short time, and then they realize that's maybe a stupid idea.
But yeah, I type it up, send it over to intelligence via the normal channel I use, and just exhale very loudly. All right. She'll signal to Romanov. Romanov,
Yeah.
how quickly can you modify your probe to be a extension for communications? And at what range can we make that probe for communications?
What could I do to a probe to make it a communications extender?
I mean, you could probably. It wouldn't take much to do something like that. It would probably just. You could technobabble your way there. The major problem is that your probes are not warp capable, so that's the big thing. Kind of depends on what range you want to go.
Well, I'll just mention these wouldn't be warp capable, so we'd have to drop them and then they would exist, but you could put a bubble of a couple of these around us to extend communications, but we'd have to drop them off.
She closes her eyes and shakes her head. Right. All right. Thank you, Romanov. Get back into the engineering room and prepare for a likely heated exchange if things go bad.
Okay.
She'll head back over to the bridge.
Okay. So you make your way onto the bridge. By this time, other crew are at their stations. Saral is working with Mr. Crichton now. And they're just starting to talk. Oh yes, I had a very I had an initial technique with regard to figuring out those Tellarite communications back at the time, but it's my same tricks are not working quite so well. But maybe we can figure something out, sir.
Well, that's why I'm here. Let's have a look at this.
So unless there is anything that you are making an attempt,
I do actually. She'll step in and say, Patel, how far are we from the Tellarite flotilla?
At present, rather at we're about just a little less than a light year's distance. Maximum warp, we could intercept them within relatively decent amount of time if it came to that, but they could do the same to us if we tried to make a course change.
How much time exactly?
A plot convenient amount of time, sir.
Well, then, with the plot convenient amount of time, that's all the time you have to break down the communications. She looks over to Crichton and Saral. Conley, I want you to get ahead of the flotilla about 2 light years, if we can. A light year or two, just enough that we can probably flee if communications go bad. But I want to get ahead of it.
Oh, Conley looks for a moment like, wait, Captain, we're talking about oh dear. Adjusting course.
It's enough. We've had enough time puttering around. Let's actually get to the bottom of this.
With the slight adjustment that Conley makes, you set a new course and are now plotting an intercept with the Tellarites.
Yep, I want to get ahead of them, so I have I'm not going in to attack them. I'm just running up ahead of them and
so eventually cutting across at what would be a perpendicular or just an intersecting angle rather.
Yeah, I'm making a lane change, as it were. Yeah.
Oh. So during that time, Crichton will say, "Oh dear. Well, I guess we'd better get to work, Mr. Saral."
Can I make a roll to be ahead of him?
Yes. I guess if you want to give me an insight and science roll here, we will call this. There's going to be difficulty 4, but you will be assisted both by Mr. Crichton and the ship.
Okay. I will steal a momentum, and can I interest you in any of the following focuses: computer, linguistics, or investigation?
I think those would apply. Certainly, at least one would work.
Good. I can't remember how we did this last time. I think you were very generous, and I would also give you a threat to use bold science to buy another die.
You know, I will allow for this. I will take one threat, and you can spend one momentum.
Excellent. Let's crack those communications.
All right, and so that is, oh dear, that is on its own. It appears to be 6 successes. Let's see what
I just see
Crichton does.
Crichton being all like, "Let's get started," and Thrall's like, "And done."
Wait, what? But but
Yes, pretty much.
I didn't do anything.
Your
For
excellent preparation saved me lots of time. Tips on the datapad, which I don't. Do we have datapads yet? I don't know. It's like,
there's
Yeah.
probably one. The ship does seem to have rolled a complication, however.
can I give
Let's
him my
break it.
reroll for bold science? Probably not.
Oh, you know, I think caution. Were you
No,
using
it just
cautious
says you.
or which
Bold
talent?
says just says you.
Oh, that
Cautious might be more
bold is
inclusive.
with threat. So if you
Yeah, cautious, you get to reroll.
so
Just
yes,
burn
that
it.
you would be allowed to re-roll the ship.
Okay,
I will let someone else do
Nice.
that.
Someone step up.
Yeah, I'll do it. What are we re-rolling on the ship again? What's the stat?
Communications plus science.
Communications plus science. Okay, I got it up now. Okay, and communications and science are selected, and it only rolls one die or 2 die.
1d20 for the ship.
Okay, 1d20 and no focus, right?
No, yeah, focus always applies when you're rolling the ship.
Okay, great.
Ooh, very nice.
Well, that is 2
Ooh.
more successes from the ship with that re-roll. So there are a total of 8 successes on the board on a
Ooh.
difficulty 4 task. You had 3 momentum after the expenditures, so that is going to allow you to well, that's going to refill the pool first off, and it will leave you with 1 momentum to float. So, Crichton's technique as far as what he had done the first time, and the information he had gathered was a very good starting point to help bring you up to speed on where Tellarite military encryption is at the moment. It's honestly, it seems last time they were a little bit sloppy, and they're only marginally better now. But things were sufficiently tight to where the Tellarites seem to be there's a little more priority on intership communication. In particular, you are picking up some messaging from the task group ahead. It seems as though there are signs of messages that are being relayed out back towards Tellarite space and possibly towards other groupings. In particular, the ones that are near the one binary system that you know the Tellarites have in the area, with the couple of colony worlds. I left that in the list there. That might be, based on what you're seeing with the messaging, it might suggest a forward point in terms, or forward deployment area, or like a sort of base camp flag for whoever is ultimately overseeing the operation. Um, but yes, a lot of the updates as you start breaking through more suggest that the Tellarites are engaging in the Tellarites in the nearest group are basically relaying information, a lot of sensor data, trying to look for traces of either warp or ion trails specific to a Tellarite freighter. And you also gather that they are focusing their local communications on the flagship, the TSV Devushkov.
Okay.
And while he didn't succeed at all, Crichton is going to look over the comms data as you pull this through. Wait a minute. The Devushkov. Oh no. Oh, Colonel,
Yes, Crichton.
this is the same battle group we encountered at Alpha Centauri, or rather that the Aegis did.
Terrific. She says under her breath.
As I, Patel looks up. Oh, Captain. Last time we encountered them, they actually, well. So I don't know if did you ever read the intelligence report from that?
I read a lot of intelligence reports, Patel. Perhaps you can enlighten me. Regain or help recover the memory.
Well, when we finally made it into the capital of Alpha Centauri, in New Samarkand, we were able to arrest Governor Slocum in part because, the Tellarites left because the flag officer was shot. The Admiral Clenanche. He was kind of murdered, I think, by his second in command. At this
Captain Dager, I think.
Dagerish, you know, I'm going to edit the. I don't know if we actually named him properly, so I'm just going to change his name here. Official Cosmic Retcon.
I mean, it happens with on occasion with Star Trek.
Yep.
Yes.
It was just, that was his half brother,
Yep.
or maybe a second that was totally not the real second, but just the one who claimed he was.
Right. So, at that point,
all right. So refresh my memory. So basically, the captain of the ship was shot. There was a mutiny. The captain of the ship was shot. The second recovered because of us, or
the commanding officer. Rather, this is Patel doing it. The commanding officer of the entire battle group was a bit less willing to leave his prize here, or at Alpha Centauri, even though we pretty much we had infiltrated the capital. We had some forces to where it could have been a fight. It was honestly, I was hoping it wasn't going to be one, and I think we lucked out to the extent that we did. Some of Slocum's followers were fully prepared to give up, and they're part of the current Alpha Centauri government. They formed a government with the resistance there, but the Tellarite admiral Clenanche was less willing to just leave. So right as we were trying to figure out how to make this work, his second in command actually shot him, and we elected to. Well, he shot him and Governor Slocum. We helped the governor recover so that he could be brought back to Earth. But the Tellarites, on the other hand, well, we didn't help him, and Captain Daga wasn't really too keen to help her. I don't know if we ever properly even got his rank or what his rank is now, but well,
Probably one higher than it was back then.
Yep. And before you can further add to that thought,
she just
alarms
side
go off
eyes. She side eyes Shira with a smile. Don't get any ideas.
Yep. Consoles blink on at sciences, tactical, and navigation.
I will look at the blinking console.
Captain, it looks like some of the Tellarite vessels are changing course.
In our direction?
Yes, I think so. Looks like 3 vessels.
Are they Charged. Weapons charged.
Can't quite yet tell just yet, but they'll be on us in even less than plot convenient time, sir.
I can imagine. Crichton, send a message to the flagship of the flotilla.
Hey, sir. What should I say?
This is the SS Aegis, Colonel Lillian Sharpe requesting to out of character. I'm floundering here. How best should I describe this crew? Because I am not a diplomat. I try, but I don't always
Parlay.
succeed. Yeah. Seeking a bit of parlay in out here in the frontier.
And we are in neutral space currently.
No, we're not. We're in this pseudo claimed. It's not really. It's kind of claimed, but not really space of Tellarite.
This is the frontier for both of you, relatively.
Yeah.
So it's only so much one could do to claim this area, but it's also honestly, it is probably a bit more open. In any case, yeah. With that, Crichton says, uh, "Sir, text message coming back. The Tellarites have agreed."
Is there any intership communication that wouldn't indicate otherwise?
You probably see a few momentary bursts of comm traffic between the three vessels, one of which is the flagship. But it seems as though the consensus among the crew, or rather the orders from the flagship after some comm traffic between them, suggests that they are taking a lead on this. But yes, there is consideration for possible threat of an Earthship or questions about their trustworthy capacity. Something in particular, there's some sort of assurance or something to do with the fact that they are in fact dealing with the Aegis of all ships that seems to suggest otherwise.
Why is it always the Aegis?
Aren't you
sorry.
glad you got picked up by us, Earl?
Oh, I'm already in my shuttle. I'm just like,
Goodbye. Just out the back. Doesn't even
it's like
wait.
literally like, why this ship?
Doesn't even wait
It's-
for the door to completely
This
open.
ship. It's the best one you could possibly hope to come on board.
Well, I'm being stabbed in the back by Shira.
Patel will.
Stab? No. I'm not going to use. I'm not going to wet my blade with Vulcan blood. Thank you. It'd just be a clean shot.
Thank
I
you
was,
for the
I was
consideration.
hoping to hear like, oh, I'm not gonna stab you in the back. It'd be all front. Like,
Patel will turn to you and say, Colonel, at this point, I should say that, well, at that point on the mission, it was actually most of our senior staff that had initial contact. Myself, Lieutenant Shira, Ensign Connolly, and Dr. Lambeth were all present.
I see. Well, you're under new management, and certainly I would think that the Tellarites, if they have any poor opinion, would understand that I'm in command.
I wasn't going to suggest otherwise, although I can tell you, even with our last CO, well, at least Clenange, he was a bit rude, if I remember right. But
For a
Rights are
just
rude for a
rude.
Tellurite or just a Tellurite?
I
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't know. I haven't met a whole lot of Tellarites.
It
Had you?
seemed normal for Tellarites. So
Yeah. But we each of us may have our own experiences. I can just say for mine, Captain Daga was well, surprisingly amicable. I don't know if he just felt pressed in the situation, but that's kind of what I got. Conley turns around and is like, don't look at me really on this, Captain. I don't know exactly, like, I was just kind of there for the revolution, or like, well, not there for the not install
She just
revolutionary thing.
she just
Phrasing.
smiles and gives a small shake of her head, like,
He was just He was just there to overthrow the government. That's all.
When you put it like that,
I will certainly keep your impulses to sedition under note. She gives us a wink. She gives a wink.
oh,
Speaks into a comlink. Plan B is not a go. I repeat, Plan B is not a go.
yes,
Are we within hailing range, Crichton?
yes, sir.
All right, hail them.
Okay. So with that, the channel will open, and let's see here, just setting it up on the visual screen ahead of you. The figure of a Tellarite face sitting back in a fairly nice high command chair with the occasional bit of chattering of command like orders being given out and relayed happens behind you. Oh, well. Wait a minute. You are not Barton. Interesting. You're not that
On.
Patel either. Is oh, this is a little awkward.
Pleased to meet you. Though certainly I'm impressed by the amount of ships you bring due to the ship's presence. A beat up frigate versus an entire fleet. Certainly, if you're that intimidated by this single ship, certainly I'm not going to disagree with you. I am Colonel
Oh,
Lillian Sharpe.
such a hit for such a small and unimpressive vessel.
Colonel Lillian Sharpe, the captain of the SS Aegis.
Oh my. They it seems like they've well, I guess I didn't know you were changing up your rank system. Otherwise, I'd say that it's a pretty sore sign when a naval fleet has to start pulling its army officers to command them.
Of
Suppose
course,
you couldn't have done much worse than last time, I suppose.
certainly it's a poor sign of an empire when it has to throw everything they have at a burgeoning, if relatively young, uh, local power.
Oh no, who says we're throwing any kind of punch, Captain or Colonel? That is going to be unwieldy.
Let's keep with naval traditions, and you can call me captain. I'm sure a rather elderly mind such as yours needs such easiness.
Oh, I can forgive your mistake. I clearly project wisdom far beyond my years and far beyond your own. And you.
She kind of just smirks and says, "You mean senility?"
Hmm. Well, let's start at least by ensuring that if we're following the naval traditions, you can call me Rear Admiral Dega.
He did get
Hmm.
promoted.
I suppose they give those ranks out like popcorn these days.
Oh, well, when my senior officer was sadly lost in the line of duty, attempting to guarantee the independence of a former colony world, and gave his own life in order to permit the rest of us to retreat, that is, it is only logical that his second in command receive appropriate compensation. I did bring home the rest of my battle group and leave you humans to, well, promptly lose the planet to the Vulcans.
And yet, surprisingly, you've lost it to a barely infant power, which certainly says a lot more about the Tellarites.
Well, nation building.
Especially if we lost it to the mere insignificance of Vulcans, as you said. She gives a tight smile.
Oh, now. We can keep playing this game all day, Colonel Sharpe, but let's not underestimate the Vulcans. I don't think any of us can afford to.
Certainly not.
But at any rate, you seem awfully concerned about the movements of our starships. So let me take this opportunity to assure you that if we had any intention of conquering your upstart Earther power, it is Earth. You do go by Earthers.
She just gives a smile and like a small shrug. Whichever you like.
Well, in any case, if we had the desire to crumple your upstart power and barely functioning space navy, then we would do so just in quite short order. But that is not our intent today. We are on maneuvers at present that are simply meant to are simply part of a fleet exercise.
Maneuvers that would require 6 flotillas in just happens to be close to the borders of critical systems for Earth, United Earth. You may be accepting of Tellarite foolery, and I'm sure that is a common thing. But for most races, especially for humans, I find that a little concerning.
Well, I'm sure your people are quite jumpy, but I can assure you we mean you no hostile intent so long as you do not mean any towards us. I mean, although, it is interesting to see that you are as close to Tellarite space, the a ship that was so willing to stir up problems earlier on, and one that may, so far as we have gathered, may have been involved with a bunch of Nausicaans right along our border region.
I see.
It's not a terribly
So
good
what
look.
you're so what you're informing me is that not only are your ships uh, inconsequential, but it required a whole absolute fleet to bring to order for just one troublesome ship.
Oh,
Certainly, I am impressed. She gives a smile.
hardly that. Indeed, half my group is behind, and the other half, well, given how given how one of our flag officers happened to die in the presence of human worlds, they're just overprotective. At any rate, we care not for what ships or planets you might have in the way. Our maneuvers are our own, and I would suggest that you simply go along your merry way, Captain. Unless you mean to stir up further trouble.
Certainly, there are a few things I wish to discuss to you, Rear Admiral. She says with like she says Rear Admiral with like a cloying sort of humor to it. Uh, something that likely shouldn't be so discussed amongst public ears. If you perhaps are willing to continue this parlay and either on my ship, or I'll even give you the benefit of doubt and make my way towards yours if you feel more comfortable.
He furrows his brow for a moment, then gives an order off screen, or rather, gives an order to someone off screen. Saral, for your part, you are going to notice comm traffic drops down a bit. Uh, before he looks ahead to the visual and says, "All right, Colonel, Captain. I think that whatever concerns you have, I'm sure that we can address it here and now. I just ask you not waste our fleet's time on these maneuvers. After all, we have work that needs to be done."
Certainly, as much time as required to sort out your dysfunctional little batch of ships. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Would you like to rendezvous with mine or yours?
Oh, we can continue our rendezvous here, but I'm more saying I frankly don't have the time for pleasantries right now. I would much prefer to get on with my day and continue our work. This,
Then
frankly,
let's.
visual contact here is more than sufficient. Besides that, I don't think I could contend with the smells of being on a human ship. And I
No.
definitely wouldn't want to be on there if you've still got that rabbit and Dorian on board.
Well, certainly we're still making an effort of cleaning off the scent of Tellarites, but I'm sure adding more to our cleaning order wouldn't be that terribly of an issue. But regardless, let's skip over the niceties and speak more plainly.
The niceties, quote unquote.
Yeah. You and I, she's the smile, the mean girl smile just drops from her face. You and I are both captains and soldiers for our respective powers. And certainly things have heated up as of late. I'm sure you are aware of the situations that are happening in my home and what happened in the embassy in Vulcan.
What happened at the embassy on Vulcan?
There was a bombing.
Did he seem genuine in his questioning just then?
Give me an insight and security.
Yeah, can I get that as
Or,
well? Can
yes.
I assist?
I would allow for command as well. Base difficulty of I'll have him try to contest a little bit on this, but without. I will not have him roll with a focus here.
Insight and command. Let's go with diplomacy, gambling.
I think either would apply here.
All right.
So,
I guess we do separate rolls.
Yep, you have to beat a 1 here. I will. I guess if Shira wants to assist, I would allow for that to be the case.
Yeah, I'll do the assist.
Okay. Then I'm going to spend a momentum to add a die. And if that's fine with people, because we're kind of full. And, which, by the way, thank you, Sorrel, for that. You did awesome.
Oh, now he gets things.
Yeah, you get things out of character. Tons of them.
Oh, out of character. Okay. Soral will remember this.
So Shira and Sharpe, as you both look over this Tellarite, first, Shira, I'd say that you are generally more. You are obviously well trained to be familiar with Tellarite, like any sort of nonverbal cues. Your training is to fully assess how to tear down someone and perhaps to look for those subtleties in expression. In this case, the Admiral's not being particularly subtle with the slight furrowing and raise of one eyebrow. He seems genuinely confused and doesn't have it. Like, it almost came off as a purely spontaneous request as far as that goes. But yeah, Colonel, you're reading him pretty well, and he seems genuinely unaware.
There was a bombing at the United Earth Embassy on Vulcan. Took the life of a Vulcan diplomat, even. In addition to that, we've had several bombings on our shipyards on Alpha Centauri, which happened just to coincide in the same time your fleet movements, which we're not suspecting you, certainly. She says, give like a very serious, like, we're not at the moment not suspecting you, but there is a lot of concern, and certainly someone is trying to start something that neither of us wish to continue.
Dega sits back for a moment and places his hands together. Colonel, we had no involvement with either of these, and you have my condolences on whatever losses that hit your planet. I can say with
Thank you.
high confidence that uh, my government would want me to convey those particular meanings. I can assure you our movements have nothing to do with any Earth movement that we are aware of.
From captain to captain, and to help get assurances of such things. I trust your word, but you and I are simple people who are instructed rather than the movers and shakers. Um, how certain are you of any sort of concerns that you might have, or for? Uh,
Well, I rather like to think I can move this fleet of mine here, Colonel, but I do take your meaning in this case. My orders, and those of my of the rest of my fleet, do pertain in part to maneuver, but we are also under instruction to search for a craft. Something very significant was taken very recently, and while I cannot go into details on that regard, the best traces we have put it as traversing space in this direction, towards, or at least partially through, what is apparently Earth space.
certainly, if you give me more details, even just the classification of ship, I can talk with my own sources and help you out in such a gesture. I have my own connections.
Colonel, these are more unexpectedly tense moments than I realized, and I can understand why you would be on edge. Can we agree that further escalation is something to be avoided?
Certainly, I can agree alongside you that the two current officers in charge have no desire for such things.
Yes, and we would act always in the best interests of our government. That would be a fair proposition.
Um, this she didn't say but I'm as a player saying that's interesting thing of saying. Yes, so long as it does not create, and certainly I would either of us would like to be informed prior to any sort of unfortunate scenario.
Then perhaps there is a way that we can avoid any further escalation and, well, the risk that someone might miscalculate and accidentally start a broader conflict. Tell me, Colonel, if I were to give you information on the ship or ships that may have been involved. Let's say that the Aegis slipped away from its monitoring duties and perhaps traveled through Earth space freely as it could to search for said ships. And perhaps discover the answer to this missing bit of cargo. If you were to do that, or hypothetically, if the Aegis were to take that course, then perhaps once you have an answer, then I might have an answer. And with that, we could take what we need. We could take what was ours, and both be able to go to our respective homes at the end of the day, with the assurance that uh, whoever else has machinations and designs on our two powers, that we ourselves would not come to blows over it. What do you think of that thought experiment, let's say?
I think certainly if such a persuasion might occur, that certainly it would be amicable, so long as the one, for instance, a Tellarite rear admiral, did everything he could to ensure that the match is not lit while waiting for such a recovery.
I can guarantee you about at least 10 of your Earth days, possibly as far out as what would constitute 2 weeks. Past that, our search grid might widen, and, well, there are more chances for contact at that point. Hypothetically, of course.
16. Just for the sake of ensuring that we don't miss anything.
We'll pause for a moment. 2 weeks, but with word that there may be a promising lead in this area, and that other groups may be able to stand back. Turn down the temperature.
She keeps a poker expression, and with my leading insight, he's not hiding anything else, right? He's being completely upfront about this.
He obviously doesn't want to tell you what the cargo ship had carried, but you're kind of ahead on that, of course.
Yeah. She'll nod. Agreed. With that said, for the possible exchange, I will do. This captain would likely do anything she can to recover, and to the extent. But what would be agreeable for your higher ups? What can they tolerate?
Absent a significant portion of the cargo being returned, an explanation and responsible parties would do the trick, I think. Somebody does need to pay for what has happened. And if there isn't an answer, then, well, then Earth might have reason for concern.
So long as those that are, as it is a cultural taboo for Earth, that any of those that are need to be seeking a criminal punishment do not be expired in any sort of manner. Any corporal punishment with that.
I'd prefer that you bring someone alive so that they can stand trial. That would look the best for me, but if I have an appropriate record and have have them, well, if you have more information and you bring the responsible parties to us dead, that would be a more difficult sell on my part, but I might be able to make it work. That said, as many of them alive as possible. Is that clear enough for
No,
you?
you misunderstand me, Rear Admiral. Simply that any of those that we bring to you aren't don't get the death penalty.
Now, tell her. I don't know how you Earthers punish your guilty, but We have a civilized code.
Fair enough.
They'll get the full rights and privileges to an appropriate defense and a proper treatment for sapient life by Tellarite legal codes.
I apologize, Rear Admiral. We've encountered a number of cultures that certainly still have the corporal punishment, and I wish to make it clear for my own sensibilities and the sensibilities of my crew.
Well, these discussions are better left to diplomats, I will admit. But
Fair enough.
I think that
And-
for two people out on the frontier, we at least have a bit of an understanding.
We do.
Very good. Then I think I'm going to adjust my fleet group's course and, well, accept a diplomatic greeting with my compliments. Crichton quietly indicates that there is a data transfer in progress. In the meantime, well, be mindful of your approaches to other Tellarite vessels.
Certainly so. If you can perhaps gesture in the direction of certain vessels that might be more approachable, amicably to like yourself.
I will update our protocols for that and disperse word through my fleet. But
Thank you.
You had best get to work then, Captain. 2 weeks.
She nods. Thank you, Rear Admiral. She just cuts the line.
Yep. Daggers will go off. Sir, the data packet appears to be sensor telemetry.
Good to know. Crichton, send everything we have to this frequency, and she'll send it to directly to the priority mailbox of Section Chief Mitchell, and request that if he wishes for further communication, that certainly I'm up for it.
Yes, sir. Where, who, I guess, who wants to look at the telemetry here? Should I send it to science? Well, I'll send it to all of you. Science, tactical, whoever wants it. It's a free for all,
Please.
sirs. Okay, so for anyone
She
that
just
wants,
looks over to Shira because Andors and Tellarites don't get along. Your opinion, Shira?
They seem genuine. Whatever they've lost, whatever's on that ship that went through must be of very high value. They're willing to put so many ships out here for it and risk a conflict with Earth.
Or dangerous, Soral just says and looks at the captain.
Mm.
She just nods. Whatever the case, Shira, Patel, Saral, I want you to look over the telemetry and figure out our best course of action. Conley, the moment they figure out a direction, I want you to beat feet for it.
aye, sir. Should I keep us on our current intercept course?
No, we're done here.
All right. I guess I'll ease back on the
Keep the
throttle.
ease back and put us back in parallel.
Right. Connolly will begin adjusting, and I guess real quick, Shira or Saral, either of you can take lead on this and give me, I would say, for each of you, it would either be insight and science or insight and security on this matter. One of you may elect to lead, the other may take the other may take what is it? The other may assist. Yes.
Does Saral have any applicable focuses? Because I don't think I do.
Telemetry sensor operations?
That would apply, I think, in reading this.
Okay. I'll assist then.
Okay, what was it again? Inside science?
Yes.
I would buy a die with threat, because then I can reroll. And what's the difficulty?
The difficulty on this is going to be 3. And
Oh, yeah, we
that
knocked that out of the park.
Should I reroll the 0 and risk a complication? Probably not. Let's not get greedy.
well, sure enough, you the two of you, along with Patel, start looking over the sensor telemetry that you've received from the Tellarite ship. It seems as though somebody has went to a great deal of trouble to obscure the warp trail of a what appears to be a fair-sized cargo freighter, something with quite significant capacity for the refined chemosite Saral. Uh, so if the
But there's no indication in the data what the cargo is.
Yes, it isn't confirmed from this. This is just merely something dealing with the warp trail that doesn't indeed from the bits of data that the Tellarites have left you, it does seem to have been tracked at least moving through Tellarite space and into human space. So somebody moved fairly nearby, although they weren't precisely sure where it might have been. Which is why the Tellarite fleet was so widely deployed, of course. Uh, what you do notice here is that there is a secondary warp trail that seems to be uh, hiding amongst it, or there's data that suggests bits and pieces from your own analysis that there is indeed a second warp trail paired with it.
Is the data good enough that we can get a peek at whose warp trail is, like what technology at least, like Earth, Tellarite, Andorian, Vulcan, Orion?
I think that one of you would definitely be able to recognize it. I think just for security purposes, this would be more of a Shira situation.
Yeah, I'll point out the warp trail, and Shira probably has more security info than I do.
Looks to be an Orion engine.
Orions. They're quite far away from home, correct me when I'm incorrect?
Yeah,
Nowhere's too far for them.
the Syndicate has a fairly wide reach.
Still, they don't often operate this far out, especially in this kind of atmosphere and fleeing into Earth space. Hired gun, maybe?
Certainly for the cargo, they likely didn't have much choice.
Earth space is also quite lightly patrolled, at least compared to, say, Vulcan, Andorian, Tellarite.
Especially given the recent misinformation that we had to fix.
Patel looks to this. This is fairly complicated, but I might be able to adjust our sensors to pick out. There's the way that they're dispersing these warp fields. There are signs of a few exotic particles that don't completely bleed off, and I might be able to construct a trail from that, sir.
Go for it.
Oh, not meant to be selected as Shira rolling for that, but that is
It is Shira.
somehow the GM managed to temporarily inhabit Shira for that.
I got good at science.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, I just blacked out there. What did I do? Just looks at the screen.
But I don't understand any of this. My science is usually 1.
Oh, that's okay. I can read it for you, Shira. But from the looks of things, throw in the ship just to assist here, which I'll grab that real quick. Oh yeah, he's definitely got it in hand. Captain, I think that I might be picking up signs of a trail. Continuing on our parallel course with the Tellarites as it is, we could actually be on this within about 4 days, sir.
She'll nod, and I looked at Connolly. Connolly, hit the gas. Let's go.
Aye, Captain. With that, Connolly is going to tap into the console. We'll get the momentary shot of the Aegis temporarily dropping out of warp and making its course adjustment as they race off towards the signs of a scattered warp trail, one that may suggest that one that may be carrying a very dangerous cargo.
Yeah. So Ral kind of looks to the captain. Should we start thinking about potential countermeasures? And he kind of is also looking at Chira, and it's like he's clearly uncomfortable with not being able to talk about what's happening because it makes everything more difficult.
Yeah. Certainly, it's something we should bring to discussion. Let's everybody to the ready room. Let's have a talk.
And I think that conversation is going to have to happen next time. So we'll go ahead and see that on. We'll go ahead and get to this next session with when we come back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis. But until then, for those of you in the archive, I hope you enjoyed today's session. Get some more answers to these mysteries here. We will catch you. Well, we'll be in the archive in a couple days after this, of course. So, for those that want to catch us live, we broadcast 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. GMT. So, feel free to catch us live if you can manage it. Otherwise, we'll see you around. Have a good one.